Hi, and welcome back. Yes, I'm supposed to be wearing this. It's kind of like becoming a theme, right? But I'm sorry, it's just too damn hot today. So let me tell you a little bit what's going on. So I went to Copenhagen and I picked up a computer. A nice guy called Henry, he had an Olivetti for me that he wanted to donate to the channel. He was a follower and was really happy with the channel's content, and he has this laying around and wanted just me to have it for the channel. So it comes with all this. There are a few manuals here. These are some quick manuals. It came with a keyboard, and this keyboard, sorry, that's the Olivetti keyboard 2. This is the actual unit. It also came with this one. And as you may see, very dirty. That's the story behind why I have this. And then it came with the Olivetti library box. I assume this is just the manual belonging to this computer. So this computer is an Olivetti M24, the SP version. And that's the turbo version, running at 10 megahertz. So I will move the camera over and I'll have you see a little bit more close up of the unit, the keyboard, this card, and what's in the box. Here at the channel, I like to thank PCBWay for supporting this episode. PCBWay is again celebrating their PCB design contest. This 5th design contest is running until the end of 2022, where you can win some awesome prizes. By signing up here at their website and attach your own PCB design, you can win some of the awesome prizes. The link is in the video description. By using PCBWay, perhaps your long way from start to finish just got shortened. And now back to the video. So with the camera arranged, let's move the computer away because we'll look at this later. Let me just pick up the keyboard for you to see a nice Olivetti keyboard, and it's the keyboard 2. It is dirty and I will have to clean it, but if you want to see that, just go up there. You can see me clean a keyboard just like this one. If I take this away then, and I move over to this card just for you just to see how dirty this one is. Let me explain very briefly what this is. This is the graphics card that sits, and I will now move the computer back in. It sits over here like this on the side, and this card combines the motherboard that is upside down with the expansion board that sits upside here, where you can have 8-bit cards and 16-bit, and yes, it's an Olivetti, so it's 16-bit from the beginning. This specific card, if I should have a look, wow, it is dirty. It's the Geo 380, sorry, 18, and it's 0386. So we're talking about a older, well, sorry, a newer version of the card. But as I said, it's already inside. There's a story behind this. I will come back once we're done explaining everything that I've got. And let's just quickly have a look at the box. So it came with the simple guide to using MS-DOS. It came with these quick guides, one for MS-DOS and one for GW Basic. And it's a card that you can put on the actual keyboard, where you then have it as a quick guide like this, where you see everything in it. So let's take that away also, and let's see if we can get inside the actual box here. So I will assume you need to lift it up, and so if I turn it the right way like this, you can see these are the manuals. So it is getting started with MS-DOS, MS-DOS and GW Basic Interpreter under DOS. And inside all of this, there should be actual manuals. So let's quick have a peek and see, comes, well, just move it out like this. So getting started with MS-DOS. No disks in this one. Let's see if we have any DOS in this one. Any disks? Also none, sadly. Let's hope for the last one then. Doesn't matter, I do have the original MS-DOS disk that came with it. Yeah, and sadly there's no disk inside this also. But nevertheless, I have more manuals. So let's put all this aside and let me move a little bit closer to the computer and tell the story behind it. So the story behind the computer itself from Henry is that he is actually a system developer programmer way back in time, just like me. And he made a lot of programs on this computer. He hasn't had it on for over 30 years. And at one time, he also gave it to his sister with the monitor. The monitor sadly has gotten lost, and that's why I don't have a monitor. But hopefully there is some programming language in here. He was doing Ball and Pascal, so I hope we have something on the hard disk in there. At one time, this computer broke down for him, and he couldn't figure out how to repair it. But his brother, and now we come to this part, his brother was working in the Danish Army, and this board comes from another Olivetti M24, because it turns out that the Danish Army actually also worked with Olivetti computers. So the Olivetti brand was very popular in Denmark. It was popular in the banking industry and also in the, now I know, in the military, but also for private use of companies. So this was really a computer that a lot of people worked with, the Olivetti M24 or 24SP, or maybe even the 28. So this board was a substitute because they thought the board inside was broken. The extension of the story is that it turned out it wasn't the board, and they have a technical person from Olivetti came over and fixed the computer 30 years ago. But again, he's not sure it works. So let me now tell you or twirl around the computer. As you can see in the front, we have the amazing, beautiful grill from Olivetti with a on and off button, with a reset button here and a power that shows green when the computers turn on. Over here we have the label with the Olivetti personal computer M24SP. This is a 5¼ inch. This is 360K. Up here we have a hard disk. I cannot tell you what it is, but it came usually with a 20 megabyte hard disk. They moved up to 30 and 40 at one time, but I don't know yet what's inside it. The grill in front goes all the way around, and obviously on the other side. And then on the back we have the actual computer. Over here we have the serial number, and if I have to lean in and take my caps off, it is 58442 and 40, I would say. On and off, we have a power in, a power out. The power out is usually just for the monitor. Depending on what monitor you have, if you had the color monitor for it, you had to provide it with separate power. If you had the green or amber or whatever color it was, to the black and white basically, the 12 volt came from the actual DIN connector here where you connect the monitor. So down here we have the keyboard connector for Olivetti's proprietary keyboard. In this case we have the keyboard 2. Over here we have a parallel, then we have serial. As I said, this is the CRT connector, the DIN 20 connector for that one. And on the last side we then have another grill. Just a quick reminder, this little hinge here, this is if you wanted, you could have extension unit on the side. I have another M24 that I will show later on, where you can see it's extended with a hard disk on here, but it could also be a tape drive, for instance, you could have here. Back. If I turn it around, all we need to do, I need to find the screwdrivers. I have 2 screws on the top, I have 2 screws on the bottom. On the top takes the top cover off, on the bottom it takes the lower part off, so that we can get to the monitor. I shall move this, I shall open this one up and we'll have a peek inside and we'll see what's in this computer. There should be something special, he was telling me, on the actual motherboard for me inside. And with this opened, I can see the hard disk, and it's a 5220-2, so it is a 20 megabyte hard disk. It looks fairly clean compared to this board. And if I tilt a little bit around, so that board is the same as this one. This is the GO380, whereas this is the GO318. So it's an older version, or this one is actually the newest version of the same board. I must actually assume this comes from an Olivetti 24 and not an 24SP. So a quick look. So here we have the graphics card. We have an FMM hard disk controller. The controller for the actual floppy disk is underneath on the motherboard. It's integrated, so we don't need to think about an extra board for that. In here we have the 4 16-bit. It's sadly Olivetti's own proprietary 16-bit cards that fits in here, and the only 2 cards that I know of is a RAM expansion card and an extension for the video graphics card, so that you can have 640 by 416 colors. I have another video showing you that specific graphics card, and if you want to see how that works, there's another video up there. So I will move the camera upside down so we can start unmounting all the units from it, because nevertheless I need to clean it. We need to rip out the power supply. I need to test the power supply before we turn it on. Just a small hinge, so you can know that for future use. In order to get this unit out, you just need to find the level that's down here. I know it's very difficult to see, but if you get a screwdriver in, lift it up, you can then take the unit out. Usually, if I can get underneath it, let me see. And there it is. So this takes out, let me take all the cables out of it. This then gives us the unit with the floppy disk drive and the hard disk, and here you can see the 5220. 20 means it's a 20 megabyte, and -2 means it's it spins a little bit faster. I can't remember the precise schematics for it, but it's not -1, it's a -2, so it's a faster hard disk drive. And up here there are no errors on the hard disk when it was delivered back in 26th of November 1986, and it's tested. It even says Turbo B18. So let me also dismantle this one. There's grooves down here that takes this piece off with the hard disk, and then we can clean also the floppy disk drive inside. So I shall do all this, move everything out of the computer. Once all that is done, I'll assemble it again, and before that we'll test the power supply. So let me start doing this. So I made a few videos about the M24 and the M24SP, and you have seen me disassemble it. So I'm not showing you how to disassemble that. You can look up on my channel and find how I did all of this. So I will just literally rip out everything and then come back to you once it's on the table, and then we can walk through some of the items. But I just want to tell you or show you one thing that I just realized. And if we have a look here, I hope you can see, this is behind here, that's where the hard disk is. And this is still actually being covered like the plastic film. I'm hoping I can keep it, but I have to most likely take it off because I need to wash. This one is very dirty. So this, I will probably have to take it off, but I'm hoping I can put it back again. Up here, this is Danish. Husk ship ved transport af maskinen. So remember, ship when you're transporting the machine, which means park the hard drive before you move the computer, right? So, as I said, I will just remove all the items and rip them out of the computer, and I will clean everything that needs to be cleaned. This is foam that's disintegrating, so that has to be taken off, and then I'll come back. Obviously, the motherboard is in the back, and there's a battery that we need to desolder. So let me just very briefly take everything out of the computer, and then I will come back to you. So everything is disassembled, and what's left is to clean everything, right? So I can see, as I know from all the times I'm looking at the Olivetti, the water battery has leaked, and it always leaks this side over to the power light. So this area here is infected. It looks a little bit messy, but usually there's no harm because the motherboard sits like this. Here we have the battery. So it doesn't leak up into the board, but downwards out to the corner. So I will remove all the chips, and then I will give this a good clean. And I can see Henry, he was talking about there's a surprise for you when you open up the computer. And it's not that it's dusty, but it's that there's actually a coprocessor in this one, and it's up here. So this is the main CPU, which for some reason is a Siemens, and it's usually an Intel, so I don't know why there's a Siemens in this computer, but it's fine, it's the same thing. And up here we then have an Intel 8087 core mat processor. But I'll have a walk through the motherboard and the other peripherals once everything is clean. It's fairly okay. I just want to really rinse this one down so it's nice and crispy again. And if we have a brief look at the graphics card, which is the GO380. I was previously talking about the old card that also came with the computer together with the keyboard, and that's this one. And as you can see, I have already cleaned all of this, and this one is the GO318. Just to give you the brief story about the 3 different graphics cards. There was originally a GO317. That was the version 1, and then came the 18, and then there was a big gap, and then came the latest one, which was the GO380. But it's the same thing. Nothing, it's just the same. So the boards, the graphics card is okay, and the expansion board, which then sits up on the computer where you have the 8-bit and the 16-bit over here. And this one is an IF314, and this is from 1086, just like the rest of the stuff. If I briefly take the graphics card back again, this one is from 1186, so it's fairly new. And now that we're talking about the dates, let's just take, okay, fine, let's take the motherboard back, and let me just find the label. It's down here. So the label is saying this is a BA177 from 1086 also. So October 1986, this is where this computer has been assembled. This computer, the SP, the M24SP, actually came out in 1985, but more and more of this. And over here we have the hard disk, the floppy disk, and over at that corner way up there, we have the power supply. So let me clean it and let me come back once all of this is nice, and then let's have a walk about all the components. As you can see, everything has now been cleaned, and I am ready to dig into our motherboard. And what we need to focus on right now is to get the water battery, sits there, to get this out. And I will just use my tweezer, and I shall take it out, bathe this area in some clear or white vinegar, and just to dissolve all the acid that has run out of the battery. That's actually not acid, but nevertheless. So I will clean up this area, remove the battery. I'm not gonna put in a new battery because I'm not gonna use the computer, and the only thing that battery provides is, and I'll go through the motherboard once we're done, up here for the timer. It will just provide the hour, so the date and the time for the board. That's all it does. I don't need that for anything. So let me do all that. As I said, get rid of this one, rinse it out, and then I will, after that, I will move everything back into the cabinet that we have over here. So let me just finish doing this and come back. And just before, I also need to test the power supply. So see you in a bit. I fixed the battery. I took out the water battery from the area, snipped it off, and after I snipped it off, I soaked the board in that area in vinegar and for like half an hour. And then I desoldered the small legs that were left behind when I snipped off the water battery. So with this area now clean already, I just want to talk about the boards that are in the computer. Let's wait with the motherboard, and let's just take the 4 boards that comes with the computer. And I briefly talked to you about this board. This board is the board that will hold the expansion card, and obviously you have the 8-bit area up here, and then you have the 16-bit. I will briefly come back to these 2 connectors. This is for the 5-volt and ground connection that goes to the board. There's also a minus and plus 12 volt that also goes both to the graphics card, the motherboard, and the backplane. So as you can see, there's also 16-bit over here, and that's just due to the fact that Olivetti, from the beginning, the very first PC, which was the M24, was a clean 16-bit computer. But at that time, the standard for the 16-bit peripheral connection card weren't official yet. So Olivetti made up this thing, and then later on, when the AT standard came out from IBM, obviously they did not adapt that and they made their own, so this area just came up here basically. But Olivetti has always been 16-bit from the very beginning on. So let's take this away. Briefly go to the graphics card. I already talked about that, and on some of the other videos I made about the Olivetti M24SP and the 28. I've talked about this graphics card, so there's not much to say. I will now address this after I just talked about this one up there. This is the BIOS. This is where you have the character set for the screen. This is Danish. This is the Danish character set up there. Together with this BIOS and the 2 on the board, I have dumped them and I put them on archive.org. So if anybody needs that, it's up there already. So let's address these 2. And obviously you saw the card was in the computer like this. And the expansion board goes in the first one. It connects on the top and goes like this. And then underneath this, the motherboard sits upside down and connects like this. So you have this motherboard, graphics card, and the expansion board sitting just like this in the computer. It's actually a very nice design having it this way, because you divide the different kinds of areas apart from each other. And the battery doesn't leak that much on the board. For obvious reason, if you want to test stuff, it becomes complicated. So I cannot just rip out the board and then sit on my desk and test the board, because this needs to be hooked up, this needs to be hooked up. So it is a pain in the butt if you need to do that. So usually when I have difficulties and need to fault find, I assemble everything back together in the cabinet, and then I just turn the computer upside down so I reach the board itself, and that's how I usually do that. So graphics card done. And the last card is our floppy disk controller, and this floppy disk controller is just for hard disks and is from Western Digital. And the reason it's just for hard disk is obviously, as I told you, over here in this area, which we'll come back to, that is the one that will drive the floppy disk. So here we have the board, and if I should, hopefully I can remember, right? So let's turn it this way around. Over here in this area we have the memory, and it's pre-populated with 512 megabyte RAM. And then additional 128 is socketed, so you can populate that. When you buy an Olivetti M24SP, it comes with 640 megabytes already. These are 120 nanoseconds, and the CPU accesses this with 0 wait state. So this makes it very fast. The Olivetti M24 does it in the same way, but it's 150 nanoseconds RAM, and it's with 1 wait state. If you then compare it to the original IBM, the 5150, that computer, the memory access time was 250, I think, maybe it was 220, I can't really remember, but compare that to 120. So the SP, the Olivetti computer range, the M24 and the SP that we have on the board now, was so much ahead of the IBM PC at that time. So very fast computer, very, very fast computer. RAM, up here we have the two BIOS. We have a low and a high. As I said, I have also dumped those. This is the 1.43 version, and this is already floating all over internet. But I always take the dump from my BIOSes and I put them on archive anyway. Down here we have a loudspeaker. The only thing this can do is saying beep. This is the reset button, and this is the light for when the computer is turned on. Here we had the battery. Moving up here, this is the brain in the computer. So this is a 8086-1. -1 means that it's 10 megahertz. If it were -2, it was 8 megahertz. So the -2 is in the M24. As a surprise from the lovely Henry that gave this computer to me, this one is socketed with a Co or Mat processor, whatever you prefer the name for. So this is an 8087, also -1, running at 10 megahertz. If we move up here, let me take this one first. So this is the crystal that is 30 megahertz. So divided by 3, that's the one that runs the CPU down there. This is for the peripheral, so this is serial interface. Asynchronous, if you wanted synchronous serial peripherals, you had to populate it with a chip up here instead of. Moving a little bit further into the other corner up here in the top, where we have the keyboard connector, Olivetti's proprietary keyboard connector, but this is basically just a PS2, so it's very easy to adapt this into a PS2 keyboard. This is the keyboard controller that we have here. This is the timer that will be running together with the battery, keeping it up and running. In here we have the, let me think, this is the, you know what, I forgot, let me come back to this one. This over here, that's the floppy disk controller. This is the controller for DMA, for running the memory and the access and ensuring everything is aligned. So what is this one? I can't remember, I need to look it up. And I'm back, and I didn't even have to look it up. Just before I opened the computer, I realized this is the interrupt controller, obviously. I'm just getting old, that's my excuse, right? And then we have parallel and serial over here. And as I told you, this is the connection for graphics card, and there will be plus 12 and ground coming in here, and plus 5 volts and ground coming in here, and then additional plus and minus 12 volt goes from the power supply into this area. I have tested, let me just move it up. I have tested the power supply up there. It's all running. There's nothing wrong with that one. And I've cleaned the hard disk and the floppy disk drive and assembled everything together again. So what's left is for me to assemble the whole computer, and then we shall turn it on and see if it actually runs. So see you in a bit. Let's turn it on and see if it works. Look at the keyboard, lights are blinking, which is a good sign. I hear the machine is spinning up, fan. I hear actually the hard disk now. And something is popping up on the screen. This monitor is very bad, so there we go. I think, yeah, it is. Maybe I should turn a little bit around so we don't have so much light reflecting on the screen. Well, it's the best I can do for now, and it seems that it's working. And immediately I see that it is Danish. So version, so this is Olivetti Personal Computer DOS version 3.2, revision 327. So this is the DOS that was shipped with the computer. Very nice. Let's have a look at the hard disk. There's a lot of stuff in there. So there's TC, that's probably, he was a programmer, Henry. So this is probably a C compiler. Then we have a DOS, something called ORCAT. Oh, that's a CAT program. I remember this from way back in time. Norton, some utilities, OPTI, no idea. WP50, that's WordPerfect, right? So WordPerfect 5, I'm assuming. Turbo Pascal directory, a mouse directory, DR11. So if this is WordPerfect, this is probably the drawing program from WordPerfect. So that's probably Draw 1.1. There's NC, there's AutoCAD. And this is saying Spill, which means games. Very nice. You know what? I actually have the original mouse for the computer. And this mouse, here we have the keyboard, all cleaned, all nice. And in the back, here, you can hook up a keyboard. So let me just very briefly put in the keyboard. Well, sorry, the mouse, of course. So that goes in here. And the mouse actually just acts like key presses on a keyboard when it's just in here. So should we try AutoCAD? No, ORCAD, what was it again? Let's do dear. Let's do OCD ORCAD. I can't remember how it runs actually. sometimes near like 86, 87. I worked very briefly at a school with it. Draft, I think it is. It does start up. And there you have it. ORCAD System Corporation. Press any key. And then another splat screen. So 85, 86. I don't have a file. And there we have. And the mouse, if I move the mouse over here. Sorry for the very bad screen. The lights are in the screen. Maybe if I do like this. I'm not sure. So the mouse is over here. And yes. So I should be able to enter. Oh, there's a lot of components. So here we have assembly, CMOS, device, ECL, Intel. And here we have a lot of CPUs. So let's find an 8086 Max. Wow. So you can actually draw your motherboards with this. So let's place it. Let's rotate it like this. This is absolutely cool. And place it. And then escape, I think it is. Yes. So we just placed the CPU. Very nice. Get, enter. Let's find some memory. Like this. No idea. Let's just put something in. There we go. And then you can place that somewhere and place it. And there you go. So that's ORCAD. That's very, very nice. Let's see how we get out. I think it's quit. And abandon edits. Are you sure? Yes, I am. Wow. AutoCAD. AutoCAD is another program for designing buildings or whatever you want to. The problem is I'm not sure that there's a specific drivers for AutoCAD for the screen, because Olivetti has 640 by 400, and if you had the extended graphics card in it, then you actually had 16 colors. So again, I am not familiar with AutoCAD, so there's a file utilities here. Let's see if we can find some files. List drawing files. There we go. So if I said like AutoCAD, ACAD drawings, let's go out, go back. Edit existing, ACAD. And I can see immediately it goes into low resolution, so the driver for this is not there at all. And sadly nothing pops up, but AutoCAD, wow. And here we have with the mouse, and we can draw on it, but let's not do that. So let's get out, that's quit. I remember AutoCAD is with a lot of, you have to write a lot of commands to use this. Really want to discard and change? Yes, I really want to, and we're out. Very cool. Exit. So I guess this computer is running, and it does stuff as it should. We had WordPerfect, right? Let's try that. And it is WordPerfect 5.0. Oh man, this brings back so many memories. I used WordPerfect back in the days, and I wrote all my essays from school on that, printed it out on a printer and handed it in. I remember in the beginning, my teacher was really mad about that because you need to do it in handwriting. But there we go. Can I remember F7? Yes, F7 is to quit. So let's get out of this too. Very nice. Let's wrap this up and see where we go from here. I'm pretty sure if you, back in the days, 1986, had this computer, you would be a extremely happy person. It is very fast. It was ahead of its time, and it's just a cool setup. I just wanted to test the floppy disk drive if it actually boots on, because I haven't tested that, and it does. It now wants to do something, initializing the hard disk. This is the getting to know your Olivetti SP, and I'm not doing that. So let me just briefly turn this off so we can have some quiet talk together. So, really love this computer, but again, it's an Olivetti, the early ones, dear to my heart. I also tested this, so I ripped out the existing graphics card that this computer came with, and I put this in and I tested it. This is also working, so I have now yet another one of these for spare. Very nice. I used to have the Olivetti M24, and the SP, I didn't know about that until very late. Very expensive computers though, so I was not allowed by my father to have it upgraded to this one. So that's just how it is. I know that Henry, he made a lot of programs on it, and Henry obviously also did a lot of designs. I don't know if it's for computer manufacturers or whatever. He used the CAD program in here. But I promised him to walk through the hard disk and see if there were any documents, and there's nothing on it. There's one Word document, which is for a Christmas cookie called Kleiner, and that's the only thing that's in here. I have written to Henry asking him if it's okay that I'm keeping it as it is. I'm still waiting for him to reply back to me if that's okay. If not, I will just format the computer. Yet again, an Olivetti, a nice one, and very pleased with it. I hope you too like this video too. Give me a thumbs up, or please remember to subscribe and ring the bell, you know, all the YouTube stuff. And see you soon. This is the end of September, and October is Olitober, and I have a surprise that I will be running during October, and not the Olivetti computer, obviously. It is the Olivetti that came before the M24. I'm not saying anymore. So you need to stay tuned, you need to subscribe, you need to ring the bell so you get notified when Olitober starts. But from here, thank you very much. My name is Tybo, and see you very soon.